Hey everybody, Quantum here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at what I think might be one of the most commonly played meta matchups in the game right now. With the Into the Inklands meta kind of settling down, we're seeing that Ruby Amethyst is kind of emerging back as a top tier deck. We know that Sapphire Steel is also very good, it's very versatile, and I would probably throw Amber Steel up there as well. If you want to see me do a tier list video, make sure you drop a like and you are subscribed, and leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll make one for maybe the next video, depending. But in this matchup or in this video, we're going to see something a little bit unique. So I think if you want to watch this out, you might see something different. Being on the play against Sapphire Steel is very good. What these guys rely on, and this build is different than Moyen's build, the Sapphire Steel list that this player is playing, because Moyen's list doesn't play the Robin Hood. Clearly, they're setting up for an early shift, whole new world, right? Because against Ruby Amethyst, if I am playing the bounce cards in this matchup, I lose board presence in order to establish some stronger characters, because my hand size, my ink ability, etc., all that is impacted, and it's beneficial for you to bounce your cards that you quest, you bounce it, you protect it, you ink it, right? So that's how you maintain your resource game. The whole new world, especially the early whole new world, before you can dump enough of your hand on the board, is very detrimental. But again, being on the play here is hugely beneficial because we're able to establish two cards on board, the Fishhook and the Mim Snake. And so if the opponent wheels our hand away with a Shift Robin Hood, which is the ideal turn for them, we're not necessarily too far behind, because they will use up their turn, they'll pass over to us, we'll draw the 8th card, they'll still have 7. When we banish the Robin Hood, they will draw. But these are important things to consider. My opponent, I think, is very much debating if they want to drop the Robin Hood and sing a whole new world. And you can see that they do. We each discard 4. I have a Maui's Fishhook up, and just one off dropping that Maui. Unfortunately, you can see that they discarded a Rise of the Titans, a second copy of Whole New World. So this looks really good for me. The only unfortunate thing is that I don't necessarily gain the advantage off the draw here, because when the Robin Hood gets banished, which I'm going to probably trade my Mim Snake into right now, I will give the opponent a draw. I think this is the correct play. There's no point in questing and letting the Robin Hood take it out, right? So I think I have to do that. We're going to go ahead and ink the Maleficent that we drew and pass turn, since we have the 2 rabbits. And in this matchup, the Be Prepared is really important. The Be Prepared is what wins you this game as a Ruby Amethyst player. You absolutely have to see it. It's fine if 1 or 2 get wheeled away. Usually just seeing 1 or 2 is enough to hopefully win the game, because based with your other forms of removal, with your Mauis, especially with the Pinocchios, etc., you should have enough to control the board state constantly, as long as you out the wide board that the opponent eventually makes, right? Like when they go wide, they hold new world, they reset the resources. If you're able to be prepared that board, usually you're coming out ahead. So the opponent, again, hasn't quested for anything. They do have their Fishbone established now after Whole New Worlding there, because they obviously drew a fresh 7. We're going to quest with the Rafiki and see if we can bait the opponent into using their Smee to crash into it instead of questing for 2. But the opponent has kind of clawed back that tempo loss because of that Whole New World, because of the Robin Hood draw, and because of the Fishbone Quill. So you can see why Sapphire Steel is so good in this meta right now, because even when you're starting off at a negative tempo, when you're going second, etc., that tempo reset from a Whole New World is really strong. And Amber Steel Song is the same way, which is why I say those are also top tier decks in the format, in my opinion. So the opponent continues to aggressively dump their hands. They're on 7 ink now. We're going to sing Friends because I want to preserve this Maui to drop later, which is really risky, considering that I could get wheeled again, but the opponent would likely want to establish a 5-drop first so that they can sing a Whole New World. So we're just going to go ahead and again develop the Mim Snake, and we have the Fishhook, and we have the Maui in hand now. We have double Rabbit, Goat, and Rafiki, so we have ink if we need it. We have a rush character if we can draw into a Pinocchio, that would be really strong. They drop a Beast Tragic Hero, and they Rise the Titans away my Fishhook. Now you could argue that Fishhook doesn't really play a role here, and I should probably ink it, and there is a heavy consideration for that. Keep the Rafiki, ink the Fishhook. The Rise the Titans, they've gone through 2 now, so my locations are likely going to have a lot more play, because they're going to have to challenge it to remove it. The opponent draws 2 up Beast Tragic Hero, because unfortunately I can't out it. No Be Prepared yet, unfortunately. And they're going to Zeus my Goat away as well. So haven't drawn into a 3rd copy of a Whole New World yet. We draw Crab for turn, and I'm like, okay, Rabbit. Can I just draw something? We draw into yet another Rabbit, and I'm just like, okay, well, another Rabbit. And we draw into our 4th Rabbit. And this is actually terrible, because if the opponent draws 3, well, they will draw 3 here. But if they end up getting a Whole New World, they're likely gonna, you know, because they'll sing it, they'll likely draw into a Tinkerbell and a Grab Your Swords. And what that will do is I'll discard my last 2 rabbits in hand, and then my board will get wiped with those rabbits. So all of my rabbits will be gone, and my card draw engine is essentially decimated. So they do sing the Grab Your Swords and then they Whole New World, and I'm like, okay, that's not great for me. But again, as long as I draw a Be Prepared, I should be okay. And sure enough, they do end up dropping the Tinkerbell here. All of that card draw, I'm down to 26 cards in my deck, as you can see me checking there, and I'm like, I cannot believe I haven't drawn 1 out of 4 Be Prepared yet. This is how important this card is in the matchup, right? In set 2, I teched in a copy of Magic Broom because people were playing wheel decks like Amber Steel Song, because if they did end up discarding a Be Prepared, I wanted to be able to put one back into my deck if possible. So I teched 1 copy of Broom, which can be bounced and replayed if you need it, but yeah, it was an interesting tech card and it worked fairly nicely for me. So because I still don't have a wheel, I do need to run damage control. I really don't want the opponent to be drawing extra cards off this Beast Tragic Hero. And so instead of playing Maleficent, Hardcasting Friends, I obviously have no more rabbits. I'm just going to opt to Maleficent and just do damage control. The opponent drops a Grammatala, and I'm like, okay, they're going to start gaining lore off of that Fishbone Quill now and just inking for turn, which is wild. That's like an extra 2 free lore. They're going to finally drop the Hiram, and I'm like, yeah, if it's not Beast Tragic Hero, it's Hiram. If it's not Hiram, it's a Whole New World, right? So a lot of different sources of card draw for the opponent. And I just know next turn, I'll be on 10 ink, I'll hardcast Friends. If I don't draw, Be Prepared, I'm just going to scoop right there because there's no sense in playing the game. But yeah, I think I go down to like literally 66% of my deck, 2/3 of my deck. Haven't seen a single Be Prepared out of almost 40 cards of the 60, which is wild. But yeah, we end up conceding this one. Let's go on to game number 2. All right, as you can see here, we're going second against yet another Sapphire Steel list. I mean, I am playing the Be Prepared. Here it is, guys. I got 2 in my opening hand, so obviously we're going to mulligan those away. I'm going to also opt to put away a Maui and probably a Goat, yeah. So keep the Rafiki 1-drop. Keeping Friends here, I mean, is neither here nor there because, like I said, like, you know, they want to wheel, so like you probably want to put the Friends back, but again, it's also just ink, so it's fine. Seeing Goats this early is not really great, so we're going to ink that first and drop the Rafiki. The opponent has no 1-drop play, no Popsicle, no Captain Hook, nothing like that, so we're feeling okay. No Robin Hood, right, like last game. They ink a Beast Tragic Hero, and I'm like, okay, their hand must be kind of awkward, and they pass on nothing. So again, this looks like a very strong position for us. Unfortunately, we don't want to waste our Pinocchio here, so we're not going to drop it as a 2-drop. We're just going to quest with the Rafiki and pass. The opponent being on 3 ink, though, they're more than likely going to be able to play at least something, and a Fishbone Quill here would probably be ideal. Yeah, you can see like this deck can afford to play slow at times. And you know, because they ramp, they can get the Grab Your Swords out early, assuming they have it against aggro. This is why I think like Sapphire Steel is just such a well-rounded deck. It draws so many cards too, like just like Ruby Amethyst, that it can maintain that consistency. The issue is though, in your opening hand against aggro, you need certain cards in order to survive. Like this setup for them, if they don't have the Grab Your Swords, would be really bad against aggro, whereas red purple is able to deal with aggro a little bit better. So yeah, the opponent just kind of does board control, and I'm like, okay, you're on 5 ink now. Undoubtedly, you have a Whole New World, right? So we're just going to drop Rabbit, put it on board so that we can have one in play when they do Whole New World, and we can maybe bounce it back to hand. Yeah, they're going to drop the Beast Tragic Hero. Unfortunately, we're not in a position where we can Pinocchio down the Beast and drop the Maui. The opponent gets down to 1 card in hand. This is when I was teching in the Ursula, which obviously I've since taken out if you look at my deck list. I was just testing it out. And in this matchup, it would actually be like a banger. But unfortunately, we're nowhere near the ink to cast it right now. So I do drop the Pinocchio, and I'm going to opt to quest and then bounce the Pinocchio back because I want to take the Beast. I want to take out the Singer for the Whole New World. That was the thought process there. We end with just a Rabbit on board still, which is half decent. The issue is, the opponent, again, holding on to that Whole New World, they're going to be able to hardcast it. That Fishbone Quill is so powerful because now they can just ink for turn, be on 4 ink and still develop some kind of board. They ink a Hiram, and I'm like, yeah, well, obviously you have something good to play here, right? They play yet another Hiram. They're going to sack the Fishbone Quill. It's 9 ink to 5. The opponent is like, I don't know, 5 cards ahead of me at this point. But again, all I need to do is draw that Be Prepared for when they go wide, and I should be able to reset things. We do draw into another Rabbit. We did lose one on the discard, so that's unfortunate. And we drop a Snake to cycle, and we're not looking too bad. We're on 5 lore. The opponent's still on 0. Like, this is not necessarily too far gone yet. Oh, and I was playing 3 Pinocchios in this build as well. I've cut that back to 2. So obviously, again, my deck list has changed a little bit. But yeah, they draw the Popsicle, and I'm like, okay, yeah, quest and pop. They finally get on the board with the lore. Not great. They got a lot of cards in hand, but at least in this scenario, you feel kind of safe that they're not going to Whole New World you. Like, they're going to try to dump a lot of their hand first, right? So they use up pretty much all their ink to cast this Gaston, and I'm like, all right, well, the Gaston does quest for 3, so that is a bit of a problem. We're coming up onto the 7 ink range, though, and so we are getting into that Be Prepared range. The opponent inks a Fishbone Quill, which is interesting. They must have another one in hand, and they pass. So we draw a Goat. We're going to ink a Maleficent because, again, we have rabbits, and I'm going to drop the Jim Hawkins and the location to tell my opponent, well, let me see if you want to deal with this. Do you have the Rise of the Titans? Do you have, Along Came Zeus, plus throw your Gaston into it? Like, I'm going to slow you down the best, or as much as I can, basically. You could make a case. It's probably not worth it, actually. I don't want to play the Pinocchio, exert the Gaston, and crash the snake and the rabbit into it to lose both. The way that the game is right now, like, I don't mind them questing with the Gaston. We do have to be wary of those McDuck Manors, though. We don't have a Maui or a Fishhook in play yet. The opponent is going to get more value off of this Hiram since, again, we didn't really have an option to take it out with what we had on board yet. We had like 5 damage on board. Obviously the Hiram is 6, and again, if their hand is pretty flush and they're not on Fishbone Quill to continue to ramp, we're likely safe from the Whole New World. So yeah, because they inked Fishbone Quill last turn, we're like, okay, they probably have another one here, and they do. They go to 12 ink. They're 5 ink ahead of me. The cards in hands are relatively the same. They have a better board state technically, especially since they outed the location with the Rise of the Titans. But I think they've gone through 2 Rise of the Titans maybe, or was that last match? I don't even remember. I'm going to play the rabbit because I'm like, I need to draw this Be Prepared, right? Like, the opponent is getting into a range where this is getting scary. I drop both the rabbits, desperately trying to find a Be Prepared. Don't find anything. I'm just going to opt to continue to quest, though, because I have, I don't even know how much on board, 5 lore, 6 lore on board. And I'm like, well, the odds that the opponent has double Grab Your Sword, because I think they played one earlier. Let's see, do they have it? Because that would be really bad. Or even Grab Your Swords, Tinkerbell. Yeah, you don't even need... Yeah, Grab Your Swords, Tinkerbell does the same thing. So the odds that they have that is very, very high. They grab your swords. They did double Grab Your Swords. All right, there you go. Wipes out the entire board because Jim Hawkins is also X and 4. I still don't draw into a Be Prepared, and I'm like, yeah, this game is over. I've lost. So I'm just going to try to cast Friends and see if I can even draw into one yet. It's just like... Oh no, do I still attempt to play this match? It's over if I didn't draw Be Prepared. Yeah, I'm going to drop Maleficent Dragon, probably try to take out the Gaston. Slow the opponent down a little bit. But with the McDuck Manor now, like, they're in a commanding position to close the game out. They're going to get 3 more lore. And they have a second McDuck Manor. I can't deal with this. I needed to be prepared, like, last turn. I needed to be prepared on turn 7, right? So the fact that, this happens to you means that you will likely lose these matches if you don't correctly play the Be Prepared when you need to. And so you can kind of see in this scenario where I would have played it in order to, like, reset the board state. Obviously I didn't have it, but if I did, these games were technically salvageable. But yeah, they just have all the outs at this point. They've got all the card draw, they've got all the ink, and so there's nothing much I can do here. Like I said, I'm going to go to 10 ink and just see if I can draw the Be Prepared, but they win next turn anyways on the 2 locations. That's going to wrap up this video, guys. Let me know what you think. Thank you again for watching if you made it this far. Quantum is out.